Yo, it's your boy Carcino here. Don't forget to hit the like button, and the Cash App is Carcino. You see the banner down there traveling. So all this noise that Whack 100 has been talking didn't mean to come out to a whole bunch of nothing. All these people talking about, oh, these dudes is this, they just went in front of the judge. Bricc Baby signed some piece of paper, a memorandum, so he could try to get out of jail early. Well, not early, but on bond, because he felt like, man, I can be up out of here because there's no reason for me to be here. Right? I ain't got nothing to do with none of this stuff. And right away, all the stuff he did on Clubhouse, all the interviews he did all through the internet, they watching everything that says Bricc Baby. And when he got on the jumper, that's why I told y'all everything I've said has been 100% accurate. When I said how many videos they have of Bricc Baby and Loose Cannon. And No Jumper is responsible for a lot of them. So they're going to have to come up with a reason or a way to justify, them being open and everything. Now, Bricc Baby must have just got a bad memory or something. Because it's like, dude, what is you talking about? He thought he was going to get a bail. Yeah, they quickly denied that bail. The judge is like, nah. So once he did that, they had to open up the information on to the public. I'm going to put it on the Patreon if you want to read all the paperwork for yourself. I'll leave the link on the Patreon so y'all can go ahead and, get caught up on it that way. But if you don't, and you want it read to you and everything, hey, we got somebody to do that. So it don't really hurt. Now, this is Bricc Baby case. Now, they just doing a bunch of clout chasing from jail. All this, Big U and Bricc Baby and Loose Cannon all got in a fight. Wasn't no damn fight. Because that would have came up in the paperwork in the bond hearing. Because if you had a fight, dog, you wouldn't even been in the bond hearing. Your bond hearing would have been delayed. You've been in the hole some damn way. Especially if y'all both finna be in a Fed case. They not finna have y'all two around him. So y'all can get together and corroborate y'all's stories. No, they wouldn't do that. They'll let you be around Loose Cannon. But they ain't gonna let y'all around no Big U. Man, this housekeeper got me sick. I'm gonna thin her ass out. She ain't coming in for a minute. She gonna turn my heat off and then leave. Man, I woke up in a damn igloo. Temperature dropped at night and I'm freezing and my throat itching. I'm like, man, ooh. Well, I tell you, I ain't finna Bricc Baby myself, but damn. Man, as hell about that. Oh, yes, I am. Now, let's see what all the feds have on Bricc Baby.
Bricc Baby's paperwork got released yesterday on Pacer. And basically what this is a memorandum in opposition to request for review the reconsideration of order setting conditions of release detention. Basically, Bricc Baby filed some paperwork saying that he wanted to be let out on bond. They filed this basically saying no, and they lay out everything that they have against Bricc Baby in this paperwork. So right here, we've got the cover page. You can see that they got Bricc Baby listed here with all of his different nicknames. They got the table of contents here, which is everything that is going to be inside of this document, right? And there are quite a few things to go over. So skipping past the table of contents, we get here to this introduction. It says defendant Zahir Mitchell asked this court to be released pending trial, arguing that a secure property bond is sufficient to reasonably assure his appearance and the safety of any other person or the community. To the contrary, defendant's criminal history shows a dedication to crime and recidivism no matter what the consequences. Moreover, his conduct during the investigation in this case shows the same dedication to a life of crime and inability to comply with the rule of law. The indictment first alleges that defendant, in shooting at individuals, possessed ammunition expelled from a firearm on July 12, 2022. Then, on June 21, 2023, defendant was captured on an intercepted call arguing with his significant other, in which she repeatedly recounted that defendant had pointed a gun at her while she was holding his infant child. Execution of a search warrant at the defendant's home followed, and 3 firearms, including an AK-47 style gun and over 125 rounds of ammunition, were found. After law enforcement seized those weapons and arrested the defendant, he continued undeterred. In March of 2024, defendant erupted at his place of employment, threatening individuals in the room and online with death, fighting security, and later admitting to possessing a firearm during that incident. Throughout 2024, defendant made claims online of murdering people and threatening to do the same to others. Then on March 18, 2025, the day before his arrest, in this case, defendant went on a live video podcast with someone who he had previously threatened to kill. During the podcast, sitting across from that person, defendant brandished a firearm in his waistband. When defendant was arrested the following day, an unsecured firearm with multiple magazines of live ammunition matching that seen in the defendant's waistband on the podcast were found where defendant was staying with his young child. Wow, so that was a crazy paragraph right there. Pretty much they're saying that they had a wiretap of Bricc Baby threatening to kill his baby mama. They're saying that Bricc Baby went on No Jumper and threatened to kill a bunch of people. And y'all may remember this. This is something that I covered on my channel. This is when he went on No Jumper and had his infamous crash out and threatened to put a kill squad in the street if people kept playing with his name. Right? I'll go ahead and play that clip for y'all right now. It's not that long, just to add context.
You nigga underlying conditions, nigga, on West Side Road to say that, nigga. On the dead homies, cause y'all know what it is, nigga. And a nigga, boy, big reason I ain't come outside kill one of you niggas, cause I was in front of these white niggas, dead homies, nigga. And the homies would have crashed, nigga. On 6-0, give a fuck about none of that, nigga. Shout out Devil Donut, nigga, my real 40s, cuz. These niggas though, nigga. On 6-0, and this my homeboy, nigga. On the hood. And whatever me and my homeboy gotta go through, nigga, to clear what we gotta clear, nigga, on 6-0, he gonna always be my homeboy, nigga. It don't matter, whatever it is, nigga. But the energy that, nigga, now on. Nigga, keep on running content on my name, nigga. I'm putting kill squad in the street.
Right, so they referenced that specific moment on No Jumper where Bricc Baby was crashing out inside of this paperwork. Not only that, they mentioned that he got on the No Jumper podcast with somebody who he had quote unquote threatened to kill before in the past and brandished a firearm. And they're talking about this clip right here where Bricc Baby, Loose Cannon, Adam 22 and Lush were all on No Jumper, and Bricc Baby kind of did like a little stretch while him and Loose was kind of getting into it, and you can see the gun on his waistband. I think he did that so Loose could see that he was strapped, but apparently Loose ain't the only one that's seen it. Apparently the feds also were watching and seeing that. And this interview happened the day before Bricc Baby was arrested.
They definitely dictated the stream.
The gummies did their thingy thing. That's a fact. Yeah. We had some good fun, good clean fun.
Are y'all noticing the patterns, like the bricks and all this shit look a little different and all that?
You really feel like that?
Yeah.
You said Kappa was the one that
All right, so those are the 2 incidents that they referenced in that first paragraph. It continues, it says, all of the above conduct occurred after years of violent crimes, firearm possession, evading charges, and troubling conduct disseminated throughout the internet. Defendant's lengthy periods of incarceration and supervision have not deterred him from continuing to commit dangerous crimes. There is no reason to believe this arrest will be any different, and the safety of the public demands that the defendant remain detained. It's got statement of facts. It says, bullet point A, defendant is intercepted discussing criminal activities, including pointing a firearm at his partner and child. It says, in the first several months of 2023, defendant was intercepted on multiple court-authorized Title III wiretaps, both on his phone and his associate's phone. On multiple calls, defendant discussed criminal activity. Throughout March 2023, defendant discussed how the mother of one of his children accused him of pointing a gun at her, and defendant claimed that it was a lie. But on June 20th, 2023, a second person accused defendant of the same conduct. That day, defendant's significant other, KC, stated, you pulled a gun out on me with your daughter. You pulled a gun out on me in front of your fucking daughter. You pointed a gun at me with your bitch ass. Defendant responded, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Ever since I've been with you. Wow, Bricc Baby is a real piece of shit. It says the following day, defendant argued with KC again about her picking up her daughter, ordering her to take the fucking baby outside, you stupid bitch. You sit in the house all day, you dumb asshole. KC told defendant she could not walk or drive because defendant uffed up her leg, and then he was the one who hit on people. Defendant responded, man, on 6-0, shut the up, bitch. I just told you, you keep playing with me. You just want to see it. Defendant told KC to leave and said they were done. On the same day, KC again stated, it's so uffed up that you can't even apologize for the things you do. You've never apologized for treating me bad. Pulling a gun out on me like this is cool for you, but you want me to go do stuff for you? You talking about you don't want me, shit you got going on, but you gonna pull a gun out on me and my child though, right? Defendant responded on 6-0, yeah, you don't get it. I don't give a uff. I don't. On 6-0 crip. And remember, this is all on wiretap phone call recordings. This is how he's talking to his baby mama. It's got bullet point B. It says firearms and ammunitions are recovered from defendant's home. It said following the above mentioned calls, law enforcement obtained search warrants for the defendant's home, car, and
now, the way this is going, you can see this dude doing a lot of talking on the phone, and mostly this is baby mama drama. You know, besides him making threats on No Jumper, you know, him saying he done did this, he could put a hit squad out. You could say that on social media. That doesn't make it necessarily so. So that case is kind of weak from that standpoint. Now, unless they can corroborate, like the evidence, the actual gun that he brought on the set for the show. And you got to understand, Bricc Baby's a gangbanger. A lot of gangbangers aren't bright. You know, they're not. It's very far few you find those that are very smart. A lot of them, they just the muscle. Some of them can't read or write. I'm serious, dog. They can't read or write. I've seen it. They couldn't even hold a fork and spoon. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. They eat like a shovel. They never had anybody to teach them anything. They grew up like savages, man. It's sad. It's real sad to see. That'll break your heart to see something like that. So trust me. When you see people come from emptiness and hopelessness, you know, they don't have any remorse. They don't have any heart for it. They did dirt and done so much, they just don't have any empathy. You know? It's ridiculous.
In person. Inside his home, law enforcement found the 3 firearms and ammunition listed in count 2 of the indictment. They found a .380 caliber pistol, a 9mm caliber pistol, and a 5.56 45 caliber assault rifle style firearm with over 125 rounds of ammunition. Defendant tried to drop some of the firearms and ammunition from his balcony into the courtyard of his apartment complex, just as he had previously stated that he would do on another intercepted call. It's got bullet point C. It says defendant is recorded on intercepted calls, making other admissions. Throughout the remaining period of the wiretaps, defendant made countless assertions or threats pertaining to violent conduct and weapon possession. For example, on February 20th, 2023, defendant stated that he did not respect the elders in the gang and would pop anyone that was on 6-0. On March 6, 2023, defendant was on the phone call with his mother and found the mother of his child outside of his house. He told his mom that the mother of his child was in gangland and wanted to expire early. Defendant asked the mother of his child if she wanted to die in front of her son on 6-0 as defendant's mother screamed at him to stop because he may be being recorded. Damn, even his mama knew he was on wiretap. On March 6, 2023, defendant told KC that the police were acting stupid and that he was tired of doing what they told him to and that he was ready to shoot the mother of his child. Later that day, defendant told another unidentified male that he can kill the mother of his child, and he put that on 6-0. There's some interesting wording right there. It says that Bricc Baby told his baby mama, KC, that the police were acting stupid and that he was tired of doing what they told him to do. I don't know what that means, man, but that kind of sounds like somebody might be working. Anyways, it goes on. It says on March 28th.
Yep, that sounds like working right there. He tired of doing what the police telling him to do. But it might be a condition they got. We don't know. But what were they telling him to do? That's very suspicious. Now, they could say, you can't leave your house. You got to go back in at a certain time. So we don't know. Not saying he ratting. I'm just saying. That was a very difficult part to read. And the hood don't need that much.
2023, defendant said that he would body slam the mother of his child on her neck and to stop playing with him. In the same call, defendant discussed how it felt to kill someone and have to go to school and play basketball the next day. Bullet point D, defendant continues to threaten violence and carry firearms. In addition to the intercepted calls online, defendant continued to threaten violence, carry firearms, and discuss both. For example, in March 2024, defendant quote unquote crashed out at his place of employment, threatening to shoot people and eventually fighting a security guard. Defendant later admitted in separate interviews that he had a firearm on him during the altercation and that he brought his daughter with him to the studio that day. And they got this picture of Bricc Baby standing up, while he was crashing out. It says in June 2024, defendant argued over the phone with an individual and claimed that he had killed more people than the other had fought. Defendant stated that he swore it to be true on his 4 babies, which he repeated many times. In later attempting to downplay this claim, defendant stated that even if he had 1 murder, that would be more than the other person had fights. And right here, they're talking about when Bricc Baby told loose cannons, I got more murders in the hood than you got squabbles.
I got more murders than you got squabbles in the hood, homies. Yeah, those than you got squabbles in the set. On the hood, hey, I got. Can you give us like at least 2 names from your put on and what block? I ain't never seen you at no meeting at Hyde Park Horseman or at 54th. When did you get put on? When did you get put on? I got put on in 2002. I got put out in 2002, Eileen Street at June House. What's up? Yeah, dead homie. So when you get put on?
No, you haven't, bro. You been in
man, cuz Baby was a part of my put on. Dave was a part of my put on. Oh, the dead homies. My first name was Baby Wild. He's an Izzy turned East Coast. That was the 3rd squabble. Who did you squabble, gang?
Everybody.
Who? You didn't squabble everybody. You would have went home stuff.
Such your
You didn't go. Hey, you come up here with 30. None of them was from 60s.
You ain't
I got more murders than you got squabbles in the hood and homies.
All right, on bullet point E, it says defendant is charged with repeatedly possessing a firearm and ammunition despite numerous felony convictions. It says defendant is now charged with multiple counts of possessing firearms and ammunition, all in violation of 18 U.S.C. 922. The first charge stems from the defendant shooting 3 bullets into a business parking lot in July 2022 to ward off would-be robbers. The second charge involves all the firearms and ammunition found at his home in June 2023. Both of these charges followed 5 felony convictions from 2010, 12, 14, 16, and 20, respectively. Damn, Bricc Baby is getting arrested and charged every 2 years for the last decade. It says, respectively, while the pretrial services report includes a longer criminal history with out-of-state convictions. Bullet point F, the morning of defendant's instant arrest, he had an unsecured firearm and ammunition in reach of his young child. On March 19, 2025, law enforcement arrested the defendant on the felon in possession charges in the indictment at his residence in Gardena, California with his significant other and young child. Agents found a Glock 26 firearm and a 17-round Glock magazine with 16 rounds of 9mm ammunition, as well as another magazine with 16 rounds of 9mm ammunition. Defendant kept all of that unsecured despite residing with his significant other and a child he had already threatened with a firearm before. Despite being arrested with all of the firearms and ammunition at his residence in June 2023, despite his many felony convictions prohibiting him from possessing firearms or ammunition, and despite California Penal Code 32310 prohibiting possession of large capacity magazines. Bullet point G, defendant's criminal history is full of violence and supervision violations. As shown in the pretrial services report and the indictment itself, defendant's multiple firearm and ammunition possession charges in this case are far from the defendant's first crimes. Number 1, in 2006, there was a narcotics and obstruction of law enforcement charge. Almost 20 years ago, defendant earned his first felony from a narcotics distribution conviction, while he also was charged with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers by use of threats or violence. He was sentenced to 10 years probation and given a second chance with community service and schooling conditions. Incident number 2, in 2010, reckless evading involving assault with a deadly weapon. In 2010, defendant's criminal charges escalated with the charge for assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily injury likely and a conviction for
Now, damn, that's a lot of convictions. That's a lot of convictions for guns. And you still on the streets? That's kind of crazy.
evading a peace officer with disregard for safety. Defendant was sentenced to 365 days in jail and 3 years of probation, a violation of which resulted in 2 years of confinement. According to the certified conviction records and police reports for the original crime, police saw a S worker enter the defendant's car, and defendant then sped off upon seeing police. Defendant led police on a high-speed chase through stop signs and red lights. At some point, defendant pushed the female out of the moving vehicle. The victim landed on her face, and defendant ran over her thigh with his car. The victim later stated that she asked to be let out multiple times, but Bricc Baby refused until he later threw her out of the car. The victim also stated that the defendant said he had something he needed to get rid of during the chase and threw a handgun out of the window. The third incident, 2012 to 2014 narcotics convictions. Upon his release in 2012, defendant was arrested for transportation of a controlled substance and ultimately sentenced to 365 days in jail and another 3 years of probation. That probation was later revoked after the defendant admitted to violating it. 5 months after that arrest, but before that sentence, he was arrested for the same crime in Nevada and ultimately was sentenced to 4 years of probation. In 2013, he was arrested for and by 2014 convicted of possession of a controlled substance. Defendant later received misdemeanor relief for that conviction, but he thereafter violated his probation again. Incident number 4, 2016 criminal threats conviction. On August 2nd, 2016, defendant was convicted of criminal threats and sentenced to 2 years in state prison, although he was given yet another opportunity with the suspension of the execution of that sentence and 3 years formal probation. He violated that probation multiple times, even receiving a no bail bench warrant for his failure to appear for a violation hearing. Incident number 5, 2020 robbery conviction. On October 7, 2020, defendant was convicted of robbery and sentenced to 6 years imprisonment. This arrest also led to a high-speed chase and barricade incident that defendant glamorized in his music. And they've got a screenshot of Bricc Baby's music video behind the gate where he included footage from the news. It says incident number 6, misdemeanor arrest and other conduct. It says as a juvenile, defendant was charged with carrying a concealed weapon, robbery, and minor in possession of a weapon. He has further arrest for narcotic sales, many failure to appear in multiple states, obstruction, multiple felony and possession charges, false statements, flight, assault with a deadly weapon, multiple fugitive from justice warrants, inflicting corporal injury on a spouse, criminal threats, and multiple robberies. Defendant also has misdemeanor convictions and an infraction involving arrest for taking a vehicle without consent, driving on a suspended license, and domestic violence. Number 7, defendant's fraud.
Damn. Domestic, driving on a suspended license. This dude is getting felony. How is he on the streets?
Crimes. Defendant's crimes do not pertain only to violence and weapon possession, though. Defendant is currently under investigation for fraudulently applying for FEMA benefits by claiming to be a renter of a property in Pasadena, California, destroyed in the Eaton fire in January 2020. Moreover, in his digital devices seized during his previous arrest, defendant was in possession of multiple social security numbers, addresses, and other personal identifying information that he had bought on WhatsApp. Defendant even had a photograph of a driver's license with his photograph, but a different name, address, and state. My God, it says bullet point H, defendant was detained based on a risk of flight and danger. On March 19th, This court ordered defendant to be detained pending trial based on risk of non-appearance and danger to the community. This court found detention to be appropriate based on 1, the defendant's history and characteristics, including his criminal record of fugitive arrest and violating probation and parole conditions, as well as insufficient bail resources, and 2, defendant's safety risk due to the nature and seriousness of the instant charges and his criminal history, which include numerous convictions, some of which were violent. Number 3, argument A, legal standards for pretrial detention. A defendant must be detained pending trial where no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of the person as required and the safety of any other person in the community. The detention is thus appropriate for a defendant who is either a danger to the community or a flight risk. They then state this case, United States versus Matamidi. It says the Bail Reform Act mandates an individual evaluation guided by the factors articulated in 3142, United States versus Diaz-Hernandez. Those factors are the nature and circumstances of the offense charged, including whether the offense is a crime of violence. 2, the weight of the evidence against the defendant. 3, the defendant's character, physical and mental condition, family and community ties, past conduct, history relating to drug or alcohol abuse, criminal history. And 4, the nature and seriousness of the danger to any person or the community that would be posed by the defendant's release. They cite another case, United States versus Windsor. It says defendant should remain detained. All of the 3142 factors justify ordering defendant to remain detained pending trial. It says 1, nature.
So, yep, that's it. Now, you, sir, you've heard nothing about Lil Durk. You heard nothing about that case at all. This dude was on the streets for a minute with all of these felonies, like every 2 years. He's got another case. So on the Patreon, what we're going to do is we're going to definitely give you guys the file so you guys will have it, So as long as you got it, you're going to be good. You can read it yourself and make your own interpretations in case the person is reading too fast for you and your thoughts got caught. You know what I mean?
And circumstances of the offenses, the nature and circumstances of the defendant's offenses unequivocally weigh in favor of detention. Defendant's offenses, which are possessing multiple firearms on multiple occasions and over 125 rounds of ammunition, some of which he fired, are serious. The fact that defendant fired at would-be robbers in a business parking lot and less than a year later was found with firearms after purportedly pointing them at his partner and child only confirmed that the defendant should not be possessing firearms, not to mention his multiple prior felony convictions, each of which alone prohibit him from possessing firearms in the first place. His continued possession of another firearm and even more ammunition at home with his child during his latest arrest only further corroborates the need for his detention. Moreover, defendant faces a statutory maximum of 15 years for each count, as currently charged due to defendant's extensive criminal history, and with enhancements for the type and number of firearms and obstruction of justice, defendant faces a likely guideline range of 92 to 115 months imprisonment based on a total offense level of 21. And for those who don't want to do the math, 92 months is 7.5 years, 115 months is 9.5 years. That's what he's looking at based on these charges that he got. They've got the charges listed: base level offense 23 firearms plus 2 obstruction plus 2, making the total level of his offense a 24. The severity of the potential penalties involved
Dude got like 20 guns.
Augments defendant's risk of non-appearance. So they're saying because of what he's being charged with and the sentence that he's facing, and based on the fact that he has skipped out on court dates in the past, it's likely if they release him that he will skip out on this court date as well. It says, as courts have recognized, such a lengthy sentence provides significant incentive to flee, and given defendant's criminal history and category, he is facing a guideline sentence of nearly 10 years. They cite another case where somebody had done that exact thing, fled because they were facing a long sentence. It says defendant's previous evading and flight from law enforcement, as well as his repeated fugitive arrest, failures to appear, and parole violations confirm the same. In sum, the nature and circumstances of defendant's offenses demonstrate that he is a risk of both danger and non-appearance. Number 2, weight of the evidence. The evidence that defendant committed the charged offenses is overwhelming and cannot be ignored in assessing defendant's risk of danger and non-appearance in this case. Defendant was captured on audio recordings discussing firearms and other crimes for months. When his home was searched, those firearms were recovered. Defendant was previously captured on surveillance footage where shell casings were later recovered at the defendant's location in the video, showing that he fired them. Evidence of defendant's continued possession of firearms is likewise powerful, including the night before his arrest on the podcast video as found in his home during the arrest. All the evidence in this case conclusively shows defendant's continued possession of firearms and use of those prohibited firearms. Accordingly, the weight of the evidence, which this court shall consider under 18 U.S.C. 3142, favors defendant's continued detention. It's got number 3, history and characteristic of defendant. It says defendant's history and characteristics also favor detention. Indeed, defendant's involvement in multiple violent offenses renders him partially dangerous to the community. The evidence of his violence and threats of violence is all exacerbated by defendant's apparent continued access to firearms as detailed above. The recordings of defendant discussing uncharged conduct cast his already damning criminal history in an even more troubling light. Defendant's many convictions, along with his recent involvement in these firearm offenses, further establish the danger danger he possesses to the community if he is released. Additionally, defendant's headlong flight from law enforcement on multiple occasions and countless supervision violations only reinforces his dangerousness and his incompatibility with pretrial release, as does his attempt to rid himself of the firearms when law enforcement searched the location. For all of these reasons, defendant's history and characteristics support his continued detention. It's got number 4, nature and seriousness of danger posed by defendant's release. It says defendant's release would pose a serious danger to his own family and the community at large. Law enforcement risked exposing its investigation into a deadly criminal enterprise by executing the search warrant at the defendant's home in June 2023, all to protect the defendant's partner and child from defendant hurting them. And multiple intercepted calls, defendant's partner had discussed the defendant physically hurting her and pointing a gun at her and her child. Despite law enforcement seizing multiple guns and ammunition from his home, which unquestionably should have been a turning point for the defendant had another unsecured gun and many more rounds of ammunition in reach of his child when he was arrested 2 years later in March of 2025. Defendant's risk of danger to his family cannot be ignored. Additionally, defendant is not only a risk of danger to the community at large, but has acted on his dangerousness time and time again. Perhaps most concerning is defendant's continued criminal conduct after being caught with firearms, including illegally possessing another firearm, which weighs strongly in favor of continued detention. It's got bullet point C. Defendant's proposed property bond is insufficient, so they call him Bricc Baby broke. They say while defendant's support from family shown by his mother's willingness to serve as a surety and put up a property bond on his behalf is admirable, but there is no condition or combination of conditions to warrant his release pending trial. Even the proposed secured property bond would not mitigate defendant's danger to the community in light of the severity of his charged offenses. And
Damn, this boy broke. So Luke's Cannon and Bricc Baby is broke, but you got Adam 22. Adam, why is Bricc Baby broke? You ain't paying him, bro?
and his serious, lengthy criminal history. Even if the defendant agreed to other conditions, those limitations, including electronic monitoring, would all suffer from the critical flaw in that they depend on the defendant's good faith compliance in order to be effective. In particular, electronic monitoring does not prevent a defendant from committing crimes within the monitoring radius, including his home, where he has been caught with unsecured firearms and ammunition more than once, and there is no reasonable way to assure that a defendant would not make impermissible stops or detours on his way to places permitted under the restrictions. Given defendant's repeated commission of crimes over the course of this investigation, as well as the litany of criminal convictions, warrants, violations, and continued criminal activity while on probation or parole, this court should be wary of the defendant's ability to obey his proposed restrictions. Because defendant's personal commitment to abide by release conditions is the key factor for determining his fitness for bail, his serial and flagrant criminality counts as against bail in this case. Conclusion: this court should therefore order the defendant's continued detention pending trial. So there is the paperwork. That is everything that basically the feds are saying they got against Bricc Baby: wiretaps, real evidence like the guns that they have collected on multiple occasions. It's a wild story for sure, but that's what we got. That's the paperwork. Like I said, I'm reading it for y'all so y'all don't have.
Yep. And now that that's done, y'all see Bricc Baby is facing 7 to 9 years. And he lucky it ain't more than that. Now, there was no Lil Durk, none of this stuff that Wack was bringing up, trying to sensationalize the whole situation. But that's what he does. Wack 100. Now they gonna put them in that case over there with Dirk because he said that line. So the feds is on him because he said the line. You can't say he didn't slide for Vaughn no more. And you put the feds on them. So that's still to be investigated. But Bricc Baby, to be a gangster, did a lot of talking. And that's what these new young style dudes do. They just crash out on that level. They just can't stop talking. They've been told about the hit, every hit they did like it's legal. They want to be famous so bad. It's like, dude, what is you doing? Y'all rather to crash out than do something the right way. So, yeah, I'm going to have all that information for y'all and put it on the Patreon. Appreciate all of y'all, man. Hit the like button, subscribe to the page if you're new here. Hit that notification bell so you can get all of the notifications every time it like pops up.
All right, so it looks like we've got some.
Right. So we don't want y'all to like miss out. And enjoy the day, man. Have a beautiful day. Yeah, man. Man, tired is an understatement for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some rest, get some Z's. I'm gonna upload this for y'all so y'all can have it on the Patreon, so y'all can go through it word for word. And yo, I'm out. Thanking you. Shouts out to Kwame Brown Bus Life. Welcome to HDII TV. Sports Talk with Jose Rodriguez. Too raw for TV. And I'm out.